in front of a live virtual audience on the Duck Pond. Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, live. Malliard.com. Malliard.com. One more thing before we start. Let me turn it over to my friend that you may know from Ancient Aliens and The Curse of Oak Island and many other things, Robert Clotworthy.
On the Malliard Report, the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily of Evergreen Podcasts, KillerPodcast.com, sponsor or affiliate, or any other individual or group. On the Malliard Report, the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the show are solely those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily of Evergreen Podcasts, KillerPodcast.com, sponsor or affiliate, or any other individual or group.
Welcome everybody in. I keep saying, I go back and forth about this, I keep saying I'm going to stop saying goodnight because I know people listen via the podcast in the morning, but I say good evening anyways. So they'll just have to deal with being offended for... I'll try. And then my Australian listener said I should say good day because that covers everybody, but well, I haven't got there yet. I don't. It doesn't feel natural saying something that isn't mine. I don't know. But anyways, my guest tonight is Carla Brandon or Byron. Jeez, oh, Pete, adding letters to your last name. How are you doing tonight?
Carla Barron.
How are you doing now that I butcher? There we go. I managed to butcher the simplest last name in the history of the show.
Well, you know, it's quite all right. So, Jim, talk to me. I don't know why I followed you, but I have this weird, like, I was drawn to it, and I'm like, I rarely follow podcast people. Yeah. But
I noticed
I don't
that.
know. I was just drawn to it, and I followed you on Twitter.
I know. Well, I think we're going to find out why tonight. So we're going to get through this because we cross, I don't want to say we cross paths a lot because obviously we just started talking today, but you do crime and I've done some crime and you do some paranormal and I do some paranormal and you are a psychic. So we check a lot of boxes of common interest. Well,
and that's pretty much why the algorithm on Twitter probably showed your site to me, and I got on there and followed and said, okay, I'm listening to the universe as I tend to do. What have you seen of mine or nothing?
I've seen your website in the brief form this afternoon while we were talking, setting this interview up. And so I know you're a psychic medium, and I know you've done a bunch of TV, and you were doing some readings this afternoon. So
have you ever did you watch Court TV and True TV during the whole Haunting Evidence series?
I think I did see some of that, so I might have seen you, but I don't it didn't stick well, but I did see some of it.
Right.
Because I see so many things, it's bad.
Dead Famous. What about MTV Sphere? I know you've seen that.
Yes, I have seen that, but none of it stuck, though. Which is ridiculous. I mean, but I see all this stuff, and it kind of all blurs together after a while.
Well, that's my point exactly. I took a picture, actually, on for History Channel. I was working the Alcatraz episode, and they were doing Mystery Quest. So I was filming during, I believe it was Easter weekend. Yes, it was, because I was flying on Easter, and I said, guys, what's the story with this? So I get to Alcatraz. I'm by myself. I'm just kind of bored and waiting for them to set up, and it's 5:30 in the morning. So I start shooting photos of empty cells in cell block D, and, just to entertain myself. And I'm walking around with the paranormal investigator, not so sure he was one, because all he did was kind of read temperature to me, like, during the whole thing. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's
not... telling me about the drop in temperature, the ambient temperature around me, and I tried to stay serious, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to listen to him. And I just was walking around and trying to, get a sense of the energy around the field. And, since I worked on fear, I was around a lot of very pristine, areas, some of those locations hadn't been visited by human beings for like 300 years. So we were in areas where, number one, we were wondering if we were going to make it out alive. Number two, and you had to sign this contract with MTV saying, if you die, you can't sue us, or your family or your estate can't sue us. And so they had everybody sign that release, you know, because they didn't know. So they said, you can't sue us. There's nothing, you know, we take no responsibility. And I said, all right, so I'm on my own. And a lot of stuff happened on that series. But when I got to, you know, I'm filming at Alcatraz, I'm thinking, oh my God, everyone in the world has been up here. Every paranormal investigator, every psychic medium on the planet that's done any television at all has been up here. So I was just kind of sitting around doing nothing, and I had to stay warm. It was July. No, it wasn't July. It was Easter, so it was like May. But it was so freaking cold, and I just remembered thinking, if I don't walk around, I'm never going to wake up. So I started walking around with this guy, and I said, hold this utility flashlight so I can just take shots of what's going on in the cells. And he had no idea what I was doing this for. I said, just humor me and just, you know, walk with me. So he did, and he took the utility flashlight I gave him, and that's all we had. Now, I didn't have a smartphone in 2009 because I was so busy filming all the time, I didn't have time to go buy one. That's what was going on. So I had a Nokia 6102i flip phone, which, if you remember back, you cannot manipulate. You cannot manipulate those photos. You can't edit them on the SIM card. It's what it is, right?
Yeah, so, as bad as it was, too. I mean, comparatively speaking today.
Exactly. So I was taking photos as I was walking around for an hour. They said, go entertain yourself. So I was walking in cell block D. I think it was cell number 14. As I remember, it was like the last one. And there's nothing in these cells. Like zero furniture, no lighting, nothing, just shadows and whatever. So that's why the utility flashlight. So I have this guy hold it. I said, hold it straight and just let me snap off pictures in space, and let's just see what happens. And I must have taken 60 photos walking around, seeing what this was, and you know, it just happened to be my grandfather's birthday who had crossed over, and I was wishing him a happy birthday right before I started. And my grandmother was married to him for over 50 years, and they were just inseparable, and she had just crossed over. So I was wishing him a happy birthday right before I started snapping off photos. So we're walking along. Okay, I film my thing for history. I get to the airport. But before I get to the airport, I'm on the ferry going back to the hotel to gather all my stuff, which I had 2 seconds not to pack. And, you know, I just remembered, okay, they gave me Easter candy, so I had like chocolate, gathering chocolate, and going to the airport. On the way to the airport, I'm like going through the photos, and this one, I almost deleted it. It looked like a big ball of light. That's all it looked like. So on that Nokia 6102i flip phone, you're able to enlarge the photo. So I enlarged it by 1. And all of a sudden, this woman's face starts flying at me, and I'm like, oh my, I almost dropped the phone. I almost ruined my phone. And I looked at it, and I'm like, oh my God, there's such detail on this finished, I'm going to post it again, and then you can repost it on your site, the photo I'm talking about. This is by far, the most compelling evidence for the afterlife I have ever seen. I have seen lots of stuff. People send it to me all the time. As you know, they probably do it with you too.
Oh, they don't so much anymore because never mind.
You stopped it. I stopped it on my site because I'm like, look, but you can see the pleats in this gown she's wearing. She's wearing an evening gown in the middle of a cell in cell block D at Alcatraz. You can see how her hair is coiffed. She looks to be about 30 years of age. She has her arms outstretched. I mean, it's not just particles of dust, okay? I mean, this is a fully formed entire apparition, almost solid. It was almost solid. And I actually sent the photo to History. They paid me to use it on the episode. They said, what the hell is that? I said, I know. He said, where did you get that? I said, I was standing in cell block D, like I think it was cell number 14, and taking pictures in all of them. And this one has a picture of a fully formed spiritual apparition. It's a woman. You can see that it has an empire waistline, the gown. The gown has small, tiny pleats in it. I mean, that's how much detail there is. She's wearing a belt on the gown. It's belted. Her hair is kind of like a light brown color. And it looked kind of like the color my grandmother's hair was when she was that age. And I got to thinking, okay, I'm going to show this to my mother and ask her, is that my grandmother? Is that your mother? Because she's the reason I became a psychic. And I was just talking to her moments before I snapped off the photo, wishing my grandfather a happy birthday. So, I'm looking at this going, could it be her? Now, what I know from the thousands of readings I've done in my lifetime, when a spirit or an apparition or a loved one appears to you, they usually come as the age, representing the age that they felt most like themselves, that they were in their own skin, that they projected, okay, this is me. And that's the age they will appear to you. Not the age you might have remembered them as, but the age that they felt the most like themselves. So that's my theory on that. I sent it to a couple of people to have it verified, and I actually, Lloyd Auerbach, I sent it to him. I said, what is this? And what is this connection to me? Because I'm thinking it's my grandmother. And he confirmed that, through his psychic sources, through his people. And I don't know if you know who he is. Do you know who he is?
I know who he is. He was on the show, 10 years ago. So that takes me back.
Lloyd.
Yeah.
My buddy. Lloyd. I sent it to him because I was like, Lloyd, tell me what the hell this is. Because I respect only, this is the thing with being a Scorpio. There are very few people that I will actually go to for confirmation. Very few. And he was one of them. So I, asked him to confirm this. And the thing was, I couldn't have manipulated the photo. In fact, when I took it to various production companies because they wanted to see it, first of all, they laughed at me when they saw the flip phone. They're like, oh my God, we haven't seen one of those in so many years. And I said, shut up. I didn't have time to buy a smartphone because I've been working and filming explore all these channels, and I didn't have time. I was traveling all over the place, and I needed a phone that was super small that fit in my hand and I could travel with, and I stuck with that until I got home. You know, of course, now I have a smartphone and, you know, my latest Samsung Galaxy. But all I'm saying is that the photo, can I send the photo to you right now?
Yeah.
Can I, like, send it right now?
Yeah.
And I'll send it to your Twitter. I'll send it as a DM.
Okay.
And then I'm going to show you this thing because you're going to freak out. You're going to be like, oh, my God. And this has no filter on it as far as coloring or anything. Hold on. Oh, it's on my desktop. Never mind. Okay. Here it comes. It's coming to your DM right now. There it is. The photo I speak.
Okay, so I literally just got it, and what the hell is that?
I know. And the funny thing is, the beams on the wall make that cross. That was freaky too. But I mean, look at her.
Yeah, that's.
And you can put it through your testing and whatever, but I couldn't have.
No.
You know, done this. I couldn't have superimposed that image, especially the way the light is behind her, and you can tell she's coming out and she's reaching forward. And the fact that her bodice on her gown is a different color from the skirt part.
Yeah, because even...
I mean, talk to me.
Yeah, because... Okay. So, no, what she's describing here is accurate. And for you anti-now... Well, we're going to get this into podcast notes for sure so people could see it when they're listening to it. And for you live people, I'll get it to you here in a second once we get rolling again. But I got to look at it. I can't really look and send because that'd be ridiculous. But because I want to talk about it for a minute. Even if you're thinking it's a flashlight reflection, there's nothing reflective back there that I can see, and if it was a reflection, it doesn't reflect like anything I've ever seen, and there's no light source back there.
It doesn't have a circular flashlight.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's no,
reflection that usually happens if it bounces off a wall, and the projection. I mean, the detail in the face is insane. Like, I blew it up a couple of times, and then I put some color filters on it because you know how those Nokia phones were, those flip ones, they were all like, all the tint was, everything was tinted blue-green, everything. There was nothing you could do.
So, okay, I'm going to send this to Gio, who's in the chat room, if I can get my phone to work, on Twitter as well, via private message there. Germantown Runner, I'm going to send it to you via private message on Twitter. I know it isn't your favorite website, but you got to see this, so hop over there for a second. And then I'm going to send it to Kat and Brian Bowden on Facebook so they can take a look at it. And Kim, because she's in the chat room as well. So I'm going to send this to them via Facebook because that's where they're at. And then we'll continue the show here in about 5 seconds after I get all these messages done. Actually, so you mentioned you mentioned I'll give prime you to give me a story here. So you said you were going to show your mother. What did she say?
My mother has yet to see this, and she better see it soon because, first of all, she doesn't even know how to operate a smartphone. So, like, I have to get somebody to have her look at it because she's refusing to look at technology. Like, the television is the biggest technology that she's willing to look at. So I have to, I got her to admit to me right before Mother's Day that she wants to see it, and now she's excited to see it. Currently, my brother is dying of cancer, and he has only like a couple of weeks left. So I was doing a reading for her I broke my own rule, and I was doing a reading for her, giving her an idea of about how long. My timing, if people have read with me, they know. If you go on my website and you put in the search bar, you put the word timing, all the testimonials from every psychic reading I have ever done that deal with timing. I mean, sometimes I get it down to the actual day. So that's my thing. Some people, like Tyler Henry, you know, they can say names, like first names or whatever. They can pull that out of the ethers. For me, it's timing and places, like if I'm shown an exact city or an exact location, which made me good on crime scenes, which is why that started, because it was a puzzle and I could figure it out. And my mind works that way, that I couldn't stop until I figured it out, until I saw every detail. And I was able to slow my movements in my psychic mind. I was able to slow it down and do a 360-degree turn and look at everything, so that I had a mostly photographic memory of everything I saw, all the details. What are they wearing on their feet? What is in their hands? What is in the surrounding area? You know, and I would look at these details, and that's what I would proffer to whatever law enforcement agency I happen to be working with, or the family. I mean, truth be told, if I had to say who I like working with better, I hands down, the family. It's about the family. It's about that love, that dynamic with them. It's law enforcement is like taking a crowbar. Oh my God. I would, you know, and then once they were on board and they saw that I knew what I was doing, then they tried to get readings for themselves instead of working on the case. I mean, it was pathetic. I was not happy with that. Not happy. So the family was the most pure way for me to go. And that was always my choice.
So.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So,
that.
a few things, a little housekeeping here. Freaky, wow. I missed somebody else's comment, but it's been one word responses so far, which is priceless. For some reason, it just popped up and asked if I wanted to do this Windows update. Of course I don't, but of course Windows has its own mind. So if I just randomly disappeared, no, it was Windows, nothing you said.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there for everybody, because it seems to be one of the, well, it's not Friday the 13th anymore, but it was close enough that we should just mention that, right?
Why is Windows doing an update in the middle of us recording?
Just because you know, that's why.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Love and positive thoughts for your brother from the chat room as well, and for me. I guess I should not be so singling them out.
Thank you, everybody. You know, it's just I didn't really tell anybody on social media because it's sort of private, but you know, we're kind of waiting. So, you know, we're in waiting mode.
We mentioned we'll get you out of here. Okay, so you mentioned your mother, right? She wants to see this picture, and you've done a reading for her. But take me back. Let's go back a few days. There, I was nice.
Uh-huh.
And the first time that you started seeing things and hearing things, in that conversation, how did that go?
With my mother?
Yeah.
Well, she burned all my stuff. We had 7 fireplaces in this house, and both houses that I grew up in, my father and mother designed it with an architect, and, you know, they built them from the ground up. So we lived in the woods on numerous acres, and, you know, it was large, and it was in a very small town in Pennsylvania. So let me just say that
wait. Very small town in Pennsylvania. I'm from Pennsylvania. What side of Pennsylvania?
I'm not saying because I have stalkers, but let's say central.
Okay. Well, you could tell me later via message. I just had to throw you were mentioning these random connections, and there's another one. Okay, sorry.
Okay. So as I'm growing up, you know, I mean, I think this happened when I was 11, and I'd just gone to see my first psychic with my grandmother, who I think is that photo. I think that's her at age 30. Okay. And she's the reason I became a psychic in the first place. So she fostered all that in me you know, and I was late. I was 11, and I said, why the hell did you wait this long to tell me about Mary? And Mary was in the Poconos, you know.
Yeah.
It was like a whole day trip. Like, cars were lined around the block for 3 blocks, and people from the tri-state area would drive in to see this woman. It was insane. She was an old Italian woman that lived on top of this hill. She had a cataract in her one eye, so my mother was trying to scare me, saying, don't look at her eye, don't look at her eye. And I'm like, you know what? I will be just fine. And I loved her so much when I first met her, that she started reading playing cards, which is actually what I read with now. That's what I started with. I went to tarot cards, you know, just to change it up a little bit in the middle. And I'm back to regular playing cards again, because that's how I was first introduced to this. And it's my own language with myself, and it's the easiest thing for me to work with. It's something to do with my hands, something to establish what I call a personal rhythm, and it keeps me in the zone throughout the entire reading. So Tyler Henry scribbles on a pad of paper. That's how he gets there. John Edward, you'll notice he does rhythmic motions with his hands, you know, almost like dancing. He does rhythmic motions with his hands, and we all do it. We all do it. If you study every well-known, top of their game psychic medium out there, if you study them and look at how they move, they all have a rhythm that they get into, you know, whatever it is. So I'm like 11 years old, I think, and my mother had just, for some reason, she was on a kick. She was reading all the scary novels like The Omen and The Exorcist or whatever, and she had just read The Exorcist, and she was convinced that I was possessed, right?
Right.
Because I owned a Ouija board. You know, I was possessed. So she asked me to bring all my stuff to her, my tarot cards, my Ouija board, I had so much stuff. I had so many books. And I said, why do you want to see this? And she said, just bring it to me. I just want to take a look at it. She took everything and threw it into the fireplace. She burned it, everything. And at that point, I didn't speak to her for a couple of decades after that, to be honest. I just looked at her and I said, I can't believe you just did that. I mean, it was almost like she sealed the deal. Like, okay, now I know what I need to do. Now I know who I'm going to be. Now I know what my calling is. Because everything I had to rebuild from scratch again, which I did. And I actually spent her money buying it all, and she never did. I actually took my mother's money and spent, you know, and replenished everything she burned, you know, because you know, it was important. So now we're friends. My mother and I are now friends again, which is kind of weird. We circled back, and now she wants to see this photo. She didn't want to see it before because she and my grandmother never got along, kind of like me and her. But they never got along. They fought tooth and nail, you know. But now she's sort of forgiven her, and she wants to take a look at the photo. So, you know, tragic things happen when you choose a life path. Let me just say, you know, it wasn't what I started out wanting to do. I was actually going to be the next American Idol. I was a singer. So it's not what I started with. It's not what I went to school for. I mean, I went to Carnegie Mellon. You know, I was a voice major, piano major. I was both. And I was a musician. So there was none of this. And when I went to see this woman, Mary, who read cards on her kitchen table, she had one of those, you know, red and white plastic, you know,
I could see
Italian. Yeah, the red and white plastic Italian tablecloth that you wipe off with a sponge, you know, that one. She always had sauce going on the stove, like pretty much 10 feet away from us. And there were, she was extremely Catholic, and there were holy water stations in each room, actual holy water from the church, and statues of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph everywhere. I mean, it was like stepping into, you know, a nunnery. I mean, I was just, you know, but I loved her. Anyway, so I remember her telling me, she said, and I won't reveal what age, but she said, at this particular age, and she said the exact number, she said, the world will know who you are. That's when everyone's going to know who you are. And I said, oh, as a singer, you know, because I was so happy. I was like, oh, good. I'm going to be a famous singer. She said, no. She said, you're going to do what I do. But everyone will know who you are. And I said, what? I mean, I got into it with her. I mean, she and I got into a fight. You know, I said, no, that's not what I want. I love doing readings, you know, on the side, but it wasn't something I wanted at that point. It wasn't what I had worked for. Today, I can tell you, I am so happy it happened this way, you know, and that everything changed and I became this. Because I would never have felt this fulfilled. In my entire life, I never would have had this sense of complete joy waking up doing what I do every day if I had pursued the path I thought I was supposed to be on. So there you go.
So, okay, so you dabbled around this bad pun.
I know. I sort of went like in various circles, like try to follow the map, follow along, okay? But what is your pressing question now?
My pressing question is, you've went from entertainment, for the lack of a better word, to psychic medium. How, build that bridge for me a little bit more. I mean, I know you said you didn't want to get too far into it, but I want to dig a little bit more into that.
Well, I mean, I was always doing readings, even when I was in college. I mean, they were lining up around the block like they were for Mary, you know.
So it wasn't necessarily as far apart as I think it is. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, you know, everybody's drunk. It's Saturday night, and they're lining. And I said, look, people, make an appointment. I cannot have you showing up at my apartment. You know, and they would all show up for readings with their $10, which is how much I charged during college to do readings. Because I'm like, okay, well, they don't have any money, so, you know, they have to pay me for my time and my efforts. So that's what I was doing. And word spread by mouth that I was nailing it, and I was like, this, oh my God, you have to go see her. You know, and people were showing up. I was sleeping, and they would knock on my door. I said, "Look, guys, we gotta have a schedule here. You know, I have to get up and take a final tomorrow. You know, so that's how it sort of started. So I was always doing it. So, I was always hanging out in graveyards, believe it or not, in cemeteries. Just to be in the quiet.
That's where I was just going to ask you. I said, because that's probably the only place on earth you got some peace and quiet.
Yeah, and I was, like, I remember hanging out in this cemetery near my house in Pennsylvania, so I remember, like, going there just to be quiet and to be with my own thoughts, and I felt at peace, you know. So it started with that. I mean, I was absorbing anything paranormal, ghost related, spirit related. I studied every religion on this planet. Every religion.
And what'd you figure out? What'd you figure out here?
What did I figure out?
Yeah, I mean, because that's a lot of studying, so you had to come out with something out of all that studying.
That when you boiled it down, the core of every religion on this planet is basically the same, and there were very simple concepts that came from each. And so that's why I was never like a religious person with everybody. Even though I was raised Roman Catholic, I was my church organist for 10 years. So that tells you, I was, I was with the priests and the nuns all the time. But I saw common threads through each religion. So it was like a language to me. It was like a language, a belief system. The belief systems were all intertwined. They were all the same. They just sort of branched out from different places. That's how it was to me. So it was languages. That's what it was. Language of belief. And I would look at it like that when I speak to people, so that I knew, I sort of psychically, sensed how I could approach a certain topic with them, of the afterlife, of someone that had just crossed over, of a baby they had just lost in miscarriage, or whatever it was, and I knew the beliefs they had been raised with, but it was to bring them to a sense of understanding and comprehension about that moment so that they could absorb the lesson, the life lesson that came with it, and to move on and to use it in such a way to help themselves on the rest of their path so they wouldn't get stuck. So many people get stuck in those moments and, either of hatred or loss, or, they're paralyzed and they don't know how to get out of it. And that's my job, to figure out how to help them manage that, how to help them navigate that moment, to take the best of it and to go forward with it, and to always remember that moment, but to, not just look at it like this thing that devastated you,
So
Same with the good moments. There's so many good moments that we see. And to not get all sucked up in the good moments either. To not get so full of yourself that you forget why you're here.
Oh, you're funny. Years ago, I wanted to cut a promo for this show about the angel problem this guy was having. His kids were getting straight A's. His life cooked and cleaned. His boss offered him a big promotion. Everything in his life was just going right. And he needed somebody to hunt that angel down and remove it because his life was just going too well. Just because you always hear about the demons and the dark side of everything, but you never hear anybody talking about the good side of things.
Well, and that's the thing. It's all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all about the balance of being able to balance those moments and take the best of it, take from it what you were supposed to learn and carry with you. And then don't get all like wrapped up in it. So many people are so wrapped up in money, like, oh, I got to make this exact amount each month so that I can do this and that. It's like, why limit yourself? Why put that ceiling on it? Why give it that much gravity or importance? And that's why they will never have money, because they assign too much of importance to it. And I understand that everybody's got to pay their bills, but there's a way to do it without assigning importance to that. There's a magical property about that I have been able to learn, and I pass it on to the people that I read, because I had a friend who was a designer. He worked with another designer, and they have a huge design firm here in Los Angeles, and he was pretty much my first friend here. His name was Michael. And he and his gay partner, Thomas, they were trying to make ends meet and whatever, but they had $0. And I mean, he was down to his last penny. And I told him, I said, every morning, get up and say to yourself and say to the universe, I will always have more than I need. I don't know how, I don't know where, I don't know when, I don't know in what manner, but the universe will take care of me. So mote it be, so mote it be, so mote it be. I always am, my stuff with that. So I told him that. I said, wake up every day and say that, and before you go to bed, say it. He's a millionaire now. And he was struggling to pay his rent. He asked me for $300. He needed to borrow $300. I said, well, I don't lend money for that same reason. But I said, say this. And he had triple that amount within 7 days. So there's a manifesting property about that, but it's not assigning so much importance to all these earthly stupid things you'll never think about once you cross over. You will never think about these things. Doing your taxes, who you voted for, the argument you got in over gun control, or whatever it was. What you will remember are those events where it took your breath away. And they could be really small events, like holding a brand new baby, a newborn baby in your arms or something, or your first pet, or, like working on your first piece of art, or whatever it is. And, it's something that you've got to remember when you leave. You will not be thinking about these things, about how much money you didn't have to pay whatever. It will never even cross your mind, because I have conversations with those that have crossed. How many times? Thousands of times over my lifetime. And not once has anybody, in fact, they expressed regret for having gone there and like been obsessed about, earthly material things, to the point where they couldn't even live their life. They couldn't even be happy with like the small stuff,
Oh yeah. So
I don't know why I'm going off on these tangents. There's something with you that brings it out of me. So it's your fault.
No, it's all good. So I got another. I want to tee you up on another one.
Yeah.
You mentioned people waking you up, but let's talk about the other side. Can you flip it? I don't want to say on and off, but that really makes it easy for me to explain to you what I'm trying to talk to you about. Going somewhere, like say going to get some groceries. Are you, I don't want to go Teresa Caputo picking people up at the grocery store and all that bit, but can you leave it? Can you shut it on and off? I guess that is probably the only way to ask that question.
I am one of the few people that can control my own universe, and I control when it happens. And that it could be because I'm a Scorpio, so that's part of the problem. I'm in control of that, and I don't let the inmates run the asylum. Let's just say that. And I can
hold on. It's funny. It's funny because they were talking about golf in the chat room, so I said tee this one up. Bad pun to them, right? And you just said let the inmates run the asylum, and they were talking about bringing it full circle, and there you were talking about prison jokes. See, it's all full circle.
Oh wow. Okay.
Sorry,
so,
I just found that fascinating too. Now that I totally derailed your train of thought.
The thing is that it's not that it never happens, but it usually happens when I'm sleeping. Where those that have crossed will try to have conversations with me. My sister killed herself about 10 years ago, and she took drugs and did the Heath Ledger cocktail to take her life. And she had just gotten married the second time and whatever, and he woke up to her body. That's what happened. And she went to if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And she went to 3 doctors, and they gave her 3 prescriptions, and she just OD'd, and she checked out. The thing is that not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, it was her birthday on May 4th, right? And that was the day I did the reading for my mother with my brother who's dying, which was weird because that's the day she called me. She said, "Can you tell me how long? I know it's not your thing and it's your rule that you don't do this, but," she said, "I need to know how long before I bury my second child. I have to get ready." And, so I did the reading, but it happened to be on my sister's birthday. And that morning before my mother called, I had a conversation with my sister, and I said, "Look, I can't absolve you of all this. This is your lesson. It will be a while before you're given the gift of life again. That's the only thing with taking your own life. It's such a precious gift. You can't just toss it aside because you're tired, or because you don't want to take it anymore, or because you're just, you want to check out. It's a gift, and you won't be given that gift again until you're fully, the light workers have a chance to work on you, and you understand why you did it and why it was wrong to throw away that gift. Because it takes a lot of planning to have each lifetime and choose the parents that you choose, the family that you choose, the karmic relationships for all those life lessons that you choose. There's a lot of intricate stuff that goes on, and you throw it away instead of trying to find another way. There's always another way, right?
Yeah.
So she's having that conversation with me before I wake up, and I'm like, "Look, I can't take this away for you. This is your thing. You got to learn. You've got to see what it was and take a really hard look at what you did. You'll be able to come back again, but it'll take longer for you." And she's isolated right now. That's what happens. They become isolated, and they work on them, with a healing light and, healing their aura to seal up those holes, which caused them to do that act in the first place. So all I'm saying is this is some serious stuff, and I work on a lot of murder cases, a lot of very high-profile missing persons and, abductions, and, it's rough territory. But I'm equipped for it because I try not to get emotional while it's going on, and I look at it like a puzzle that needs to be solved. Not every case is going to solve in the span of an hour while you're doing the reading. That's what most people didn't understand. Like, "Oh, well, if you know so much, how come you didn't solve Jean-Benet Ramsey or like this?" It doesn't happen that way. It happens with all the elements have to come together in just the right order. All the souls that are involved have to come together with the group karma. It all has to happen so that the higher lesson for everyone is observed and assimilated, and we absorb it. If we could just solve cases like that, boom, 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 just like that, there's no lesson learned there. Yeah, it's happy for the family, maybe some closure and whatever, but that's not why it happened in the first place. A lot of times it has to do with group karma, and the sick, sad part about it is this earth is just treacherous with what human beings will do to one another, I mean, the lessons we learn here are very physical, very difficult. It's not like other planes where they're just mental planes or spiritual planes, where there's like beyond the earth, where they don't have to deal with such treachery. But the earth is very physical. Wow, we're getting into it.
I was going to say, we're deep into it, and then I look at the time, and I'm like, oh, good grief, but that's okay. I like the time, right? It's going fast, which is good.
Yeah.
But okay, so you mentioned how the world is, and I know you've been doing readings I don't want to put you on the spot, but I kind of do, so bear with me. Is there any general-based messages for the world right now?
I am keeping a close eye on Russia. And if you look at my website where the testimonials are, you'll see the predictions I did for 2020. If you just put 2020 in the search bar, you'll see them. I predicted Joe Biden that morning. And I said Pennsylvania because I saw a P. And it's actually the screenshots of everything I said on Twitter. I said, perhaps Pennsylvania will put us over the top because I woke up seeing a P would be our saving grace. And I said, and it didn't look good at that point. It looked like, the other guy was going to, take it. And it didn't look good for Biden at that point. So I was making a prediction but I stuck with it. And it turned out Pennsylvania put us over the top. And I'm not even registered to vote, okay? So I have no affiliation with any party, nothing. And I do that on purpose so that I could read in a very clean, clear manner that I'm not biased, okay? And the predictions I made about COVID and what was going to happen with the mask, a lot of that happened. And how we came to recover. And I said, we're not out of the woods yet until like 2023, and a lot of those predictions are there. The thing is that if I see stuff like that, the latest predictions I made about Russia, the earth is on a tipping point right now. It is very, very close to a possible world war, and because so many will come to help the other one, it turns into a world war. It's not because we all hate Russia so much. It's more that countries are banding together like they did before in aiding their fellow world travelers, hey, we don't want this to happen to you, we're coming aboard. But I see a very real chance at that, and a very real chance at Civil War number 2.
Yeah, it seems like we're bubbling on something. I'm not exactly sure what, but as much as I don't want to think about it.
It's something that we should just put in the back of our minds and not be shocked by, but be prepared for, just in case.
I'm gonna file this question because I'm fun with it. Somebody wanted me to ask you about space, and somebody wanted me to ask you about, do you see animals? And today was the UFO hearing in Congress, so I'm just gonna throw out this big open-ended question for you, and you can run with it for a few minutes here about other things besides people out there that you may have come across in readings.
Okay, are we speaking of other than humans?
Yeah, humans.
Outside planet Earth, aliens.
Or animals, or just anything besides humans out there.
Of course there are. And, I had a dream when I was younger. I'll never forget this dream. I remembered being on a planet that where I was not human, but I was highly evolved, but I was more like aquatic, like ocean life or something. I remembered my body was like not a human body or a bipedal type of body. And I remembered looking at it going, okay, what was I learning there? But it was a highly evolved society, and we spoke not with our mouths, but with our thoughts. It was just thought projection. And everything that was built by thought projection. It had nothing to do with actually lifting a finger to do it. And it was so highly evolved, I could barely comprehend it. And I was shown a glimpse of that lifetime, and it stuck with me. The details in that dream were so profound. I know other people have dreams about being abducted, and, you know, they have scars, you know, where they shouldn't have scars. They had implants. I've read some people that have been taken. And you know what? It's not something to take lightly. So sometimes when I read them, I know that it didn't really happen. So I broach that very carefully. But in some of the instances, it really did. And mainly abductions are happening so that other life forms can learn about how far we've come. What is our progress? Are we a threat to the universe? You know, are we worthy of the gift of life that we've been given? You know, a lot of it is about study, you know, not about coming and destroying us. You know, I think, you know, where you see entertainment movies that cover this, they you know, the content is more about, you know, oh, these other alien worlds want to overtake us and take our planet because theirs is dying. And, you know, that's not what it is at all. A lot of this is about higher learning and about learning about other species. It's similar to Star Trek in the way that, you know, the Prime Directive was, you know, similar to that, where they would see other life forms or whatever, but they knew that they couldn't get involved with them. They couldn't alter their life path, you know, but they could observe. And it's similar to that.
So
Did that mean anything?
Oh, it meant a lot. So I promised you we'd do this. We were talking earlier. And then I look at the time and I haven't done it yet, which is just embarrassing on my part. What's your website and where can people find you and all that good stuff?
Well, it's basically my name, which you mangled in the beginning.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's circle back around on this one and make fun of me some more. This
yeah,
is
let's talk about how you... Okay, so it's Carla Baron, CarlaBaron.net or .com, either one, and it points you to all of my website stuff. And the only social media I'm on is Twitter, believe it or not. I just, for some reason, I feel at home there. I'm verified there. I'm also verified on Google. So you'll see the little blue check mark. And, you know, it's authentic. So
hey, I love Twitter too. So, but I'm not verified, so I don't know what that's worth.
Well, in my case, it helped because there were so many people trying to, you know, with fake accounts trying to be me. It was just, I was laughing at some of them going, oh, really? Oh, really? You know, like, and you know, I was invited to be verified, actually. The good people at Twitter actually sent me an email and said, can we complete this process? We'd like to verify you. And I said, okay. And for some reason, I'm verified, but the other people on the shows that I were on, they were not. So I got this special invitation. I feel so special.
I was going to say, it sounds like you got it. Okay, so I've got one more question in about 30 seconds, so buckle up. Favorite breakfast? What's your go-to breakfast?
Currently, it's my apple pie with raspberries. It's my impossible apple pie with raspberries. I make it with pink lady apples, and I put fresh raspberries in it, and I have it a la mode with my old-fashioned vanilla ice cream by Tillamook. Favorite. And then coffee to follow. Yeah, I know. It's the weirdest breakfast.
No, it sounds great. Thanks, Carla. Have a good night. Hey, I want to thank you for joining us. It's been a good show tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Take a few moments, subscribe, share, all the fun stuff. You know how to do it. I don't have to tell you. Just be ready for next week. It'll be sooner than you think.